Hello. Okay, we just finished the great discussion about humans, what humans would have the best fight against a chimp. And I think we all came down to probably Shaq, Andre the Giant, Sylvester Stallone, Lee Majors, and well, it's tough. Number 5 is a tough one to figure out there. Maybe Tyson. So now it's best fights between human beings versus other human beings. No chimps allowed here. No chimps allowed here. We've got no chimps here. No chimps allowed here. So here we go. All right. So best matchups between Pine Grove people. Pine Grove Illuminati. No, they're not Illuminati, are they? No. All right, so best fights between Pine Grove characters. Alumni was the word I was looking for, sorry. So, all right, so number 1, we've got Matt Clunas versus Jim Wright. That's a good one. I'm probably going Matt just because he was an incredible athlete. One of the great athletes, great divers, rugby players. He doesn't have a mustache anymore. Jim still has a mustache, so that gives him the edge. Jim's strong because he climbed trees and stuff. But Matt, just all-around historic athlete. I'm going Matt. Next fight. Let's see. Next fight. Jim Feffley versus anyone. He wins. Yeah, I met Jim when I was about 9, 10 years old. And I started watching him fight other people between the ages of, I was probably 11 till maybe 20. That would be 81 till about 1990. I never saw him lose. He's like 13-0 on the mountain. Incredibly powerful. He would pick people up and just throw them. So he's number 1. Nobody else fights Jim. Nobody else fights Jim. Next, we got Gormley versus Eric Patrick. Well, that's a good one. I'll look at that. I mean, now, I'm just because of health issues and age and stuff, I'd go, obviously, Gormley. But back in the day, back in the late 70s, 80s, I think Eric, powerful, just a naturally powerful guy. You ever see the calves on that guy? My God, the size of my thighs. Next, Paul Williams, Johnny Duncan. That's a good one. I mean, Duncan's got the reach, but he is pretty thin. And Paul was a pretty good football player. He's pretty husky. I'm going Paul Williams with the pin down with Paul Williams. Next, Bob versus Roberta. That's a good one. It'd be a tough brawl, but obviously, Bob, right? Bob. That was silly. Okay, what do we have next? We have Brian McCarthy versus Pat McCarthy. That's a good one. Obviously, in a runaway, it's Brian. He was my bodyguard for 10 years. So there you go. Let's see. Who else we have here? Ooh. Joey Rivetti versus Mr. Feffley. That's a good one. Rivetti's got the youth on Feffley. We're going back to the 80s and 90s, of course. We can't have 75-year-olds fighting 55-year-olds, whatever. But that'd be a good one. I think, man, Mr. Feffley's pretty tough. That's almost close to a draw, but I'm going Rivetti. Wenquest versus O'Sullivan. Jimmy. The kids. The boys. The men. The 50-year-olds. Good brawl, but Jimmy's been in a lot of fights. He's a tough kid. So, Jimmy. What else we have there? How about John Jennings Sr. versus Brad Hansen? There's a good one. Brad's got definite reach. I think John Jennings is probably about 5'11". Brad 6'3". I mean, that's an all-out brawl. I'm going Brad just because he's basically like a living mountain man. Brad. Okay, should we get into the girls? Girl fighting. Colleen McGrath versus Julia Sullivan. This is circa 1985. Whew. I'm gonna go Colleen. Colleen got in a lot of fights with Tommy, so she had her. She paid her dues, and that would be it. Tom McGrath Sr. versus Tom Flahaven. There's a good fight. I'm going probably Tom McGrath, just for overall strength, but Flahaven's got a lot of weight, and if they got into a wrestling match, it could go the other way. Let's see. Dave Ron versus Chris Orr. There's a good one. Dave Ron, of course. Okay. Let's see, what else we have here? We have wow. Amy Melquist versus Lisa Melquist. That'd be a good one. That'd be fun. Probably have to be in bikinis circa 1984, 85. I don't know. I'd probably go with Lisa. It'd be a hard-fought battle, but I'd go Lisa, 51-49 on that one. Let's see. Who else do we have there? Mike King versus Gary Leonard. That's a good one. That's a tough. Gary Leonard's a powerful guy, but Mike's powerful too. I'm going draw. That one's going to be a draw. Let's see. What else do we have there? Julie Calais versus Susie McCarthy. I think Susie has a size on her, so I'd probably go Susie. That'd be a close battle, though. What else is there? I think that's it for the Pine Grove people. So after that, I mean, where do we go from there? Actors versus actors, singers versus singers, comedians versus comedians. That's a good one. Eddie Murphy versus David Letterman. Probably Eddie Murphy. Jay Leno versus Sam Kinison. I'm going Sam. Richard Pryor versus George Carlin. Carlin. Let's see. Johnny Carson versus Jimmy Fallon. Both, in their heyday, like 30, 35 years old. I'm going Carson. Conan O'Brien versus Jimmy Kimmel. That's a tough one. I'm going Conan. He's got the reach. He's about 6'5". Let's see what else we got. Jerry Seinfeld versus Gary Shandling. That might be the match of the day. I'm going Shandling. Shandling in a split decision. Let's see. We have Jim Gaffigan. Is that his name? Versus himself. He's going to lose. Madonna versus Lady Gaga. Hello. The age is way too far apart, so they both have to be about 30. I'm going Madonna. Whitney Houston versus Mariah Carey. Whew, that's a battle. I'm going Whitney Houston. Let's see. Janet Jackson versus Michael Jackson. I'm going Janet Jackson. Roy Scheider versus Robert Shaw. There's a good one there. I'm going Shaw. Once again, probably a split decision. Richard Dreyfuss versus Dana DeVito. Woo! Draw. Sam Malone versus Cliff Clavin. We're going Sam. Sam wins that one. Alex Rieger versus Jim Ignatowski. Rieger. Let's see. Carla versus Diane. Carla. Mike Myers versus Dana Carvey. Mike Myers. Who else is there? Chris Rock versus Ray Romano. That's a good one. I'm going, that's a good battle. I'm going Ray Romano. Boom. Let's see. Larry the Cable Guy versus Jeff Foxworthy. I mean, Larry the Cable Guy, if it was a wrestling match, he'd probably win. But I think Foxworthy's got the speed. He's probably a pretty good fighter. I'm going to go Foxworthy if it's just a fist fight. Merle Haggard versus Willie Nelson. Oh man, that's a battle. Willie's tough. Willie doesn't look as tough as because he's got the ponytails and stuff and pigtails or whatever the fuck he has. But he's a pretty stout dude. I bet he's 5'9", 180. Merle's probably 5'10", 180. I'll say Merle because he's been to prison, whatever that means. Hank Williams Jr. against David Allen Coe. I'm going Hank. Waylon versus Marty Robbins. That's a good fight. I'd probably go Marty Robbins. Robert Plant versus Roger Daltrey. Plant's got this. I mean, Daltrey's only about 5'5". Plant's probably like 6'2", but Daltrey is a fighter. He's a boxer, and I'll go Daltrey. Jerry Garcia versus Ronnie Van Zant. KO in the first round. Ronnie at 5'3", 162 pounds. Bob Weir versus Alan Collins. Ooh, that's a battle. I'll go Bob Weir, even though he's like 8 inches shorter. Let's see. Angus Young versus Ronnie James Dio. I mean, come on. The energy of Angus, but the evil of Ronnie James Dio. I can't decide. That's a draw. Let's see. John Denver versus Linda Ronstadt. John Denver. Let's see what else we have. Elvis, the King, versus Garth Brooks. There's a battle right there. Man, I'll go. I mean, Elvis, he learned how to use karate and stuff. But Garth was I think, college football player. I'm going to go Garth. Let's see what else we have there. Rob Halford versus Bruce Dickinson. I'm going Rob. Rob. Pete Pardo versus Martin Popoff. Oof. I'm saying Martin probably take him. He's a little quicker. Maybe when Pete had the long hair, he might have the edge. Let's see. Barbra Streisand versus Lily Tomlin. I'm going Lily Tomlin. Tough fight. Meryl Streep versus Dustin Hoffman. I'm going Meryl Streep. Burt Reynolds versus John Voight. That's a battle. Because John Voight's a badass, but Burt Reynolds is a fucking athlete. I'd go Burt Reynolds. Christopher Reeve versus Lee Majors. How about that, Mr. Fung? Phew. I don't even know. I'll say Lee Majors because he's bionic. Ned Beatty versus a rapist. I'll take the rapist. Who else do we have there? Anyone else in contention? Bass players, drummers. John Bonham versus Keith Moon. There's a good one. I'll take Bonham. Let's see. Here's Aretha Franklin versus James Brown. James Brown. Paul Simon versus Bob Dylan. That's a good one. Dylan's got the reach. I think Dylan's about 5'10", 5'11". Paul Simon's like 5'1". But he's a wildcat. He's a bulldog. I'm going Dylan on that one. Neil Young versus Robert Fripp. That's a good one. I'd say Fripp takes him. Neil's strong, but he's got like epilepsy and all this shit going on. Plus he's got the mule teeth going on too. I mean, if they don't have the muzzle, I'd probably take Neil Young. Who else is there? Eric Estrada versus, well, it'll be Ponch versus John on chips. And I think Ponch should take down John. Mr. Rourke versus The little midget guy. I forget his name. Tattoo. Tattoo. That'd be a good one. But if Tattoo is at, if you don't have the cup on Mr. Rourke, Ricardo Montalban, and Tattoo is allowed to use his teeth, it'd be kind of like the chimpanzee thing. So if you put the muzzle on, put the cup on, I'd say Montalban. Well, I'm running out of names here. Mary Tyler Moore versus Rhoda. Rhoda, of course, win that one. Edith. Edith versus the mom on Family Ties. I'd take the Family Ties mom. Bill Cosby versus a passed out woman. I'd probably take Bill Cosby. Let's see. Trump versus Biden right now. I think they'd probably both pass out after about a minute of the first round. But I would probably say Trump. Pelosi versus Fauci. Probably Fauci. Kamala Harris versus Melania Trump. As much as I hate to say it, probably Kamala. Who else is there? That's all I got. Thank you. Good night.